Hello, and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. Thrilled to finally be connecting with you, Ryan. Ryan Joswick, based in Washington State, where it's like, I think it's around, you said 3:30 Thursday afternoon. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. We've had like, what is it, third time lucky? The first
Yeah.
time we were meant to do the pod, and here I am walking my puppy, and you're like, aren't we meant to be doing this right now? And then you've just come back from Italy, and unfortunately, it's always the way you get sick once you come back from a holiday or you've been on a holiday because you unwind and rest, right? And that probably takes us into the fact that you are an executive leadership coach essentially, and you specialize in sales, working with execs in sales and leaders, where you're predominantly focused on growing sales and revenue with them. You're also a speaker and an author. And basically, you are helping these leaders, these exec leaders and their teams expand beyond the fear and self-imposed limitations to unlock their fullest potential. And I'm sure there's always fear around sales. There's always fear around hitting your number. We've all been there. It's all happened to us. But through your coaching practice, you empower these leaders to step into discomfort, build that resilience, and cultivate clarity of mind. So important, that clarity of mind. Your work's rooted in the belief that people are capable of far more than they give themselves credit for. And that mindset, whether constructive or destructive, you've got some great things going on here, shapes everything from performance to fulfillment. Love that you have this background spanning leadership development, motivational speaking, which I've already said, and your own personal transformation. So you bring both that strategy and inspiration to those seeking to reframe their limits into opportunities. And I know that you also do training workshops. You did one, I think you said last week, for a franchisee. Tell us about your journey. Tell us your story. And I know that you also are quite the adventurer in terms of,
Yeah,
yeah, you love getting out into the mountains, and we've had those different conversations. So yeah,
yeah,
tell us a bit about it all.
absolutely. Well, first off, it's an honor to be here. So it's been great in our dialogue last couple of months, getting to know each other, and
Yeah.
thanks for the opportunity. So professionally, yeah, I predominantly spent 25 years in Fortune 500 and venture capital backed startups, building and leading successful sales teams. And predominantly in the hunting side, helping leaders hire salespeople and train them and develop them to generate new business in the fintech space, professional service space. And I kind of got to a point where I was wrestling with, achieved the success, so-called success, and the titles and the money. And I thought, man, is this it? Like, there's got to be more to this than life that I'm living. And I wrestled with that for years because I thought, oh no, like you got a good gig, keep it going. But that nagging feeling never went away. And eventually I said, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going to start my own executive coaching and advisory business, and fumbled around and still fumbling around learning. But really taking, 25 years of experience and knowledge of working with a wide range of individuals and different companies, and saying, how can I apply that wisdom to ultimately help serve other people?
Yeah.
Because I find that very, very fulfilling in coming alongside someone and helping them get from point A to point B in a more efficient manner and maybe a less painful manner. Uh, and I started using executive coaches back in, I'm going to date myself here, 21 years ago,
Yeah, right.
2004, when I was just totally underwater. Like, it's just like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I have all these things I need to do and all these priorities, but I didn't prioritize the different activities and tasks. So I was overwhelmed, and I ended up getting executive coach, which back then was kind of unheard of. Like,
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, yeah.
yeah, you just didn't normally do it. And now it's a lot more common, and
Yeah.
they're a dime a dozen all over. And so ended up getting one, and it made such a profound impact in my life. Um, and even when I did an Ironman triathlon, I didn't know how to swim, and hired a coach to teach me some really basic stuff. Well, it wasn't basic to me. I was
Yeah.
terrified of it, but like, and so taking that personal experience along with the 25 years of experience, that's what I do now. Is I work with leaders all over the world, predominantly revenue leaders, but some of operational and sometimes independent contributors also, and help do executive coaching and some keynote speeches and training. And then I do some sales advisory work with private equity firms.
Wow. And all around the world, like you're working with people all around the world. It's quite incredible that you've built a business like this. And it's obviously you can tell that from an energetic perspective that you're totally fulfilled. It's absolutely where you're supposed to be in terms of, serving others and, when you've had your own lived experience, when you're at that point of, I call it your soul, like it's like scream. I said rather than nagging, mine was screaming at me in the end. It was just like, be like, really? Like, are we still doing this? Like, there's more to this. And I
Yeah.
think when you encounter, as an executive coach, working with the sorts of people that are in they're like they're always holding up a mirror, and you're like, oh, you can almost see it in them, but yet sometimes they're not yet to see that they haven't seen it themselves first. Does that happen with you? Like someone will come on, or they'll be wanting executive coaching with you, and it's like whether it's a revenue issue or a sales issue, that's never actually fundamentally the core problem. It's generally what's going on the inside of the person, right?
Often it could be a combination of both.
Yeah,
It's funny because often someone will think it's one thing, but that's more of a symptom.
yeah,
And there's a root cause underneath that that's leading not only to the symptom that they're complaining about, but
yeah,
a lot of other things in their life, such as
yeah,
relationships with spouse or significant others or friends, children, their own fulfillment level in not only professionally but also personally.
yeah.
So yeah, I would say I would agree with that.
Yeah. And tell me a bit about this just like what is constructive to destructive, the whole fear piece, because when we think about, I call out the revenue and hitting your sales and, like
Yeah,
talk a bit about that because I'm really intrigued and that you said your mind is more capable than you know.
yeah,
Tell us a little bit
yeah.
about
So I
that
think
and how
about
you work with these with your leaders.
yeah, I learned that in the endurance activities that your mind gives up way before your body does.
Yeah.
So your mind's often like, stop, I'm tired, it's time to quit. And if you can learn that discipline to harness the power of your mind, your body can do a lot more than you think it can do. And I learned that doing my first marathon and then went on to do a lot of other endurance activities. And I really got a charge out of encouraging other people to do activities such as marathons or other events that originally they thought, no way, I would never do that. And two of the most powerful words that you can say is I am, because it's your core identity, and people will operate within accordance with their identity. So if they say I'm not a runner, they believe that they're not a runner. But if you can change that to say, yet, I'm not a runner yet, but maybe I'll start with a 5K and then a 10K, and then they do 15K, and then all of a sudden they do a half marathon and a marathon and so forth. Well, the same principles apply in a working environment, especially in sales, where often sales individuals and leaders have unlimited income potential where they can produce at a high level. And the thing that usually holds them back is their mindset along with their activity, the sales pipeline. And then there's a skill set level, making sure that they know they're going after the right ICP and they're presenting the right way and saying the right things, and all that's important. But their mindset often gives up early. They
Yeah.
think, I'm not good enough. They're not going to buy from me. Um, I don't think I can get that type of pricing. Oh, this other person's going to beat me. That's one set of dialogue. The other set of dialogue is, hey, I'm incredible. I'm amazing. I'm learning. I'm growing. Even if this person doesn't buy, I'm going to get a couple referrals, and they're going to introduce me to someone else. Like that mindset can paint the path either way. And the thing is, B, is most people don't realize because you operate on an unconscious level most of the time.
Mm.
90% of your thoughts you had today were similar or same thoughts you had yesterday.
I know.
And
Yeah.
so people operate in this autopilot mentality. Well, you can't work on improving something until you become consciously aware of it.
Yeah.
And so once it becomes into your conscious awareness, then you have to decide, ugh, do I want to deal with this? And if I do, how do I even deal with it? Or do you want to just shove it and subcompartmentalize it and not deal with it, which a lot of people do. So, when you work alongside a great leader, a mentor, a coach, good ones help bring things into your conscious awareness that you might not be aware of. They're blind spots. We all have them.
Yeah.
Uh, and
So
then you
true.
have the opportunity to help work on them.
Yeah, it's so true. Do and that's, I guess, what holds you back, right? Like that's those destructive
Yeah.
thoughts are what holds you back, right? Like, but like I guess with the subconscious, there's so much often that, this oldest part of our brain just has this, it's almost like a terrorizing thing every day
Yeah.
of the week. It's at us constantly, just going, you can't do this, don't do this. Like, who said you're not good at, like. And so it's really understanding that to then be able to go, no, the prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain here,
Yeah.
this is the part we really want to tap into, and we want to learn how to almost, but like having that conversation with someone, they're kind of like, what are you talking about half the time? Because it's like, they don't, we're talking about the mind, the brain here. How do
Yeah.
you, like, if you're bringing it to their awareness, do you then like, and it comes to their awareness, do you ever have leaders who choose to still to stick to their destructive thoughts, like in terms
Mhm.
of they're aware of it, and then you've got like, it takes, I guess where I'm going with this is that quite often we'll know and we'll be aware, but we just keep falling back into the same patterns, like,
Yeah.
like how do you work with someone like that? What do you do to shift it?
Yeah. Well, so think about like if someone, is thought a certain way for 3 decades or 4 decades or 5 decades, them just becoming consciously aware of it doesn't just automatically change their ability to change their thinking. Like they've got neural connections in the brain that are firing a certain way,
Hmm.
and have got a really thick path in the brain because they might have thought a certain way over and over and over. So it's a matter of, how do you, one, acknowledge, does it serve them? Like, is that thinking serving? And some, it does serve them and they want to keep it. That's great. Now, there's other ones like fears and insecurities that don't serve them. And it might have been stuff that happened when they were a child. A lot of it happens when they're younger. Then it's a matter of coming up with a new, more empowering narrative of what is a narrative. And there's a lot of different techniques. One of them likes reframing. So you can't change the past, but you can change what the meaning of that event means.
Yeah.
So let's say someone was abused as a child, and verbally abused, and things were said to them, and that narrative keeps playing. So you can't change that event happened in the past, but you can change what it means. And it might be now they have a level of tenacity that other people will never have because they were exposed to something at an age that you would hope no one would be exposed to. But they survived it, and now they have an ability to go and impact other people in a positive way. And they can turn this negative event into something positive for other people. So that's a very, very small example without all the context of reframing something that you can do for someone. And then you have to layer it in and you got to do repetition. But over time, you can do that. So typically, I would start with someone and I would evaluate what are their values. Like
Yeah.
values drive a lot of what is most important to someone. And it's amazing how many people aren't even clear on what are the most important values in their life. And whether they have defined them or not, they have values, and those values are like a filter on how they make decisions in life.
Yeah.
And so if you can get clear on what those values are and then make a conscious decision, are those values serving you? And if they're not, which ones do you want to move around and replace? And then once you replace some of those values, then you start working with alignment to make sure that your thinking and your behavior are in alignment with your values. And you gain conscious awareness through exercises and so forth. And once you do that, you become unstoppable,
Yeah,
like
I
in
love
all
it.
areas of your life.
It's so true. And that's where the mind, for me, it's where the mind, body, soul, whatever you want to call it, interconnects, right? Because you need it all
Yeah.
interconnecting. Talk to me about business in terms of you're working with an exec, and they've obviously got a team, they've got a business, and I'm assuming quite often it could be an underperforming business or a business that, like they've got, I guess, gaps in, hitting their targets or whatever. Like, how do you, like, what do you, like, you look at it, like, again, I'm just trying to work out what my question is here, but just talking about everything, you're talking from an individual sense. The same issues apply, Like I think of a business as a living, breathing system, like an ecosystem, right? It's
Yeah.
the same issues apply in a business as they do for an individual or a leader. Like, do you agree with that? And then it's looking at and dissecting then what is actually happening within this business to get to the root cause of the problem.
So the leader usually sets the tone
Yeah.
within the department or the company, depending on the size
Yeah.
of the organization. So there's a leader, John Maxwell, he once wrote a book, and in that book he talked about this concept called the law of the lid. And the law of the lid is if you think about like an old like a bottle, like a Coke bottle, you have the top part of it, and then you have the lid on it. And the lid is kind of the leader will stifle everyone below them if it's allowed or if they choose to. And so as a leader, I think it's a huge responsibility because your role is to help lead other people. But in most organizations, it's also to help achieve revenue targets. And there's probably expense targets and so forth that need to be done. And so a lot of times when I'm working with leaders, we'll look at like key objectives that they are looking at accomplishing. It could be adding a net new channel to the organization. It could be change. It could be an acquisition or merger that's taking place. They could be behind their number and they're PE
Mm,
back. So there's a lot of pressure
mm,
around go-to-market strategy and slicing and dicing the business up. And some of it's uncharted territory. And in the past, where they might have had 2 to 3 years to like get something in motion, now they have 1 or 2 quarters, or they're out of the job.
yeah.
I mean, the average tenure of a VP now is 15 months. So
Really? Is that the
yeah,
stat?
really. Uh-huh. So 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 they don't have the leeway to figure it out for 9 to 12 months. Like you're out of the job. So, in some of these bigger roles, they've been promoted into a role and just hadn't been exposed to maybe some of the strategic thinking
Yeah.
that needs to be done. And then how do you identify, I call them mileposter or leading indicators of that something's working or something's not working well enough in advance where you can make adjustments to it
Mm,
before it's too late.
mm. Yeah, because it's fascinating, right? Because I was going to ask you about that because we are in this full like it's complex, it's ambiguous, it's distractive, the world we're in. It's volatile, it's VUCA, but it's more than just VUCA these days. And then you call out that stat around 15 months in a VP. The other part for this is, and you would see this a lot, is, and I do, is when you're operating in that survival reactive mode, you're not at your best. Comes back to this destructive piece, right? But you've also then got this limited time to be able to make the impact, make the difference. Yeah, you can easily fall into like operating from a reactive survival, but you need to be able to be strategic. It's not
And come
easy.
from a place of abundance.
Pardon?
And come from a place of abundance versus scarcity.
100%.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Like, what's your like? I mean, obviously, yeah. What sort of tools or tactics do you work with leaders to get them to be able to, all right, I've got a limited amount of time. I need to be able to have a mindset of abundance and also deliver what I need to deliver
Yeah.
strategically and get the results.
So kind of varies by individual, right? So kind of depends on what the key initiatives are and priorities with that individual. And and it's interesting because sometimes they, not always, but there's a generalization. They'll want to use or do what made them successful in their prior job, but the role they have now, it's a different set of rules. And so it's through questioning and care and building trust with them to help them understand if they run the same pattern that they did in another job, it's probably not going to work in the role they're in now because often people get
Yeah,
promoted up. They're in a role that's much more tactical,
yeah,
and now they're in a role that's much more strategic, and other people are executing the tactics.
yeah,
And so it's depending on the individual through conversations, things like that.
yeah,
Usually we'll define what is the key things that they want to focus on for the quarter, and
yeah,
what are some of the obstacles or challenges or things holding them back. And then how do we free up? It could be time on the calendar. It could be energy in the head, the noise in the head, so that they can come from a place of abundance and actually focus on things that are going to move the business forward. And
Yeah.
then making sure those are aligned with whether it's their boss, their board, the PE firm, the VC firm, because they might have all good intentions and it might be right for the business, but the investors want to see something very different. And that's where misalignment can cause some issues.
Yeah. Do you think that, coaching is important more than ever, with the state of play in terms of where everyone's at in the world, the overwhelm, the exhaustion, the stats around burnout? Like, what's your view on having like, every business or every leader needing to have that, that support, that guide?
Yeah, I think, it's an interesting group that I work with because many of them are very, very strong ego-wise.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So they don't want to admit that there's a problem or there's issues or that they need to be worked on by any means. Um, so there's this dance and balance between not fixing them because God made them a certain way. I mean, they're great who they are, and it's more around how do you fix the problem that they're trying to solve within the business.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a while for people to get there, especially if they've never used a coach before.
Yeah.
Like conceptually, it's just a weird concept to them.
Yeah.
And for them to pay money for it, and they're like, oh, now often businesses will pay for their leaders to get the coaching and
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's an avenue. But sometimes the ego can hold people back from doing it or wanting to do it, or by the time they get into it, it's too late. Like they should have done it 6 to 9 to 12 months ago. Not that they wouldn't benefit from it,
Yeah.
but the timeline, as I mentioned before, the business doesn't they don't give as long of a leash as they
No.
used to.
And Ryan, the reason I was asking this question was because quite often, well, not quite often, you would probably come across this, and I do at times, is, they want these quick fixes, they want this transactional like solution. And the problem is never the problem. Like I call it solution finding because you might get given a problem that you are coming in to solve from like an advisory, coaching, whatever you want to call it, strategic. And so for me, like, but it's quite often you'll get this. No, I just want to, a quick solve, and it's very transactional. And so it's for me, I'm very much, I'll make it clear that this is transactional and this is not how I work. And if you want to actually get to the root cause, if you want to solve it, and we can do this quickly, we'll need to work differently to just this transactional relationship. And
Yeah.
so I think at the end of the day, when you're in businesses, whether you're, going in coaching execs or you're strategically in there advising, it's relational and it has to be relational. So when the ego gets in the way, the ego is preventing actually from, you know, what is possible, what success can look like, and what it mean, what it can mean, and how it can cascade through the business. Do you know where I'm going? Like what I'm saying with
Yeah,
that? Like,
very much.
yeah.
I mean, it is about trust and the relationship, and the higher up you go, be the at least within a lot of businesses, the lonelier it gets
Yeah.
because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
less people you can go and talk to about some of the challenges or issues or the way you're feeling about stuff. I mean, you go to your boss if there's a certain level of relationship, but a lot of times that might not because it could be a conflict there. And so having another set of ears to talk to and talk through for someone to say, "Yeah, you're crazy." Like that thought is not based in reality, and be able to like help redirect
Yeah.
to a better way of thinking. It's priceless. It really is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. When you booked in the podcast, and I've covered a little bit, and I always ask the question, what is one unique insight or lived experience in life, leadership, or business? And you obviously said people are capable of so much more than they give themselves credit for and or believe they can accomplish. So true. Our minds are so powerful and can create heaven or hell between two ears. I loved when you sent this to me. I was like, oh, this is really, I haven't
Yeah.
heard this term before. Often people play it safe, avoid discomfort, and let fears drive much of their lives. Tell us a bit about this heaven and hell between our
Yeah.
ears. It's so
Well,
cool.
yeah. I mean, it's that, the concept of the glass is half full or half empty. And I got fascinated early on coaching people. They would be on the same sales team, and one was breaking records, sales records, and was miserable and wasn't happy. And another individual on the same team, so same leader, same environment, was meeting expectations, wasn't breaking expectations, but was excited and thrilled and content and happy. And like, so I was fascinated. I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like, why isn't the person who's breaking sales records, making more money than they ever made, why aren't they the one thrilled and
Yeah.
like getting recognition? And I realized a lot of it had to do with what was happening between the two ears. Is one was operating from a place of it was never good enough. Like they could break a record and it still wouldn't be good enough. So there's a certain point where they're running on an endless treadmill that they're probably never going to reach. Now they'll get a lot of awards, a lot of achievement, and 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 if that's what they're after, great. But I loved how Amy Dillard once said, "How you live your days is how you live your life."
Yeah.
So if you can learn to be like, okay, how can I achieve the best, do the best I possibly can with what God's given me, continue to improve and strive, but also be able to enjoy the moment, like be fully present in the moment and experience what's going on. And often I'll work with executives that are so busy, they have back-to-back meetings all day long. They've got pressure from the board, they've got to hit forecast. If they're publicly traded, they got to hit quarterly earnings, all this stuff going. And then they have a personal life. And sometimes they're very successful professionally, but personally, it's a wreck.
That was
They
me.
don't
That
have a
was
relationship
me.
with kids, like they're burnt out, there's
Yeah, that was me.
divorce. Like, so it's like, how can you get a whole life harmony um, so that you're not, I hate word-life balance because I
So
think
do
the
I. I
word's
was just
over.
having this with another guy, with the guy in New York, Israel. We were having the same conversation before about the balance. It's just a horrible word. Like I just
Yeah,
take it out of everything because it doesn't. It's BS.
it's
You know.
BS. Yeah. I, I call it work-life integration. So
I
it's
call
like,
it work-life
how
flow.
can
So there you
you,
go. Same
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So like how can you take the hobbies and interests that you like and you love and you're passionate about and incorporate that into your daily life?
Mm,
So like and through intentionality you can do that. Like you can plan that type of stuff into your day and it takes discipline. Like number one thing I work with leaders on is how do you build more time into your calendar?
same.
And and there's usually a reason that they're overbooking themselves. There's a need, internal need to prove, to achieve, to feel like they're worthy versus just an open block of time to think, to stare out the window and just think and contemplate and dream. But eventually we have frameworks around what are they going to start dreaming about and like putting more context into it. But having the space so that the phone isn't going ding 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 and the emails are going and the Slack messages are going because it's tough to be strategic when that's going on in your life.
Yeah. The calendar is just such a simple, basic
Yeah,
foundation, right? And yet, every and the first thing I generally ask, or as part of like when I'm deep diving, or we're in the pre-learn stages, can you share a screenshot, or can you show me your calendar? And it's just like this looks like it, and I'm sure you probably get the same of like, why would you even want to look at my calendar? And then
yeah,
you go in and you say, but I hadn't put that. I hadn't actually put that lens on why are people filling up their calendars so much because we all have control. Like at the end of the day, we have final say of our calendars, right? Like
yeah.
we can choose to say yes, we can choose to say no, we can choose to have it booked up to no end, or we can choose to just go, you know what, I'm not attending that meeting. But there is something really insightful around what you just said then around there's something within us
Yeah.
that is filling that calendar up for a reason. And it's not external. It's us driving that filling up of the calendar. And
Yeah,
yet what
there's
if we
usually an internal.
just didn't? Yeah, it is. It's a really interesting insight and I'm gonna borrow that. I hope you don't mind because
Do.
it's
Yeah.
so true. It's so true. Couple of questions for you. What are you seeing or think is or feel is the biggest opportunity for C-suite for leaders right now? Like what is like in terms of with everything going on in the world, bless you. Like what do you think are the biggest opportunities to take them into the future and how we can reshape, redefine leadership, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think a couple things. One, obviously the tech stack. I mean, AI is all the buzz right
Yeah.
now. I truly think it's changing the world. It's going to change the world. Some companies have embraced it, other ones haven't really embraced it. They say they have, but that they haven't. The other would be the emotional intelligence skills, like the people skills, because I think AI is going to replace a lot of roles that we used to have humans doing, but there's going to be a more importance of how do you interact with people, effective communication, interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
Like I've been certified emotional intelligence and I've trained it to corporate executives. I've trained it inside prisons. Like the ability to interact and relate with other people is so important. And I think that will continue to be important so
Agree.
that executives aren't out of touch with reality on what their frontline employees are faced and dealing with.
Yeah, I love it. And then what about a coach? Like, the coaching industry is, it's interesting. There's a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of
Yeah.
coaches that say they're coaches. It's, what am I trying to say here? I shouldn't say it's unregulated, but I do think that, it's like it requires a real skill, and it requires a real interpersonal skill and understanding, having the ability to see something that the leader can't see, etc., and calling people out on their BS, etc., as well. What do you think a coach of today and into the future absolutely needs to be able to, yeah, like again, coming back to the leader, work with the leader and get them to where they need to go. And because we're in this new world order, we're moving into this new world order. The old world is slowly, kind of dwindling down. AI's here. Like, what do you see that coaches need as well?
I mean, one would be experience, right? Like, are they, if you think about if you need to have a surgery, do you want to go to someone who has never done the surgery before? They've never done an operation before. Maybe they went to school, maybe they haven't. Um, or do you want to go to someone who has experience? They've done many surgeries. They have a confidence level like that they can get in and get the surgery done. I'm probably gonna take the person that has done it and done experience before they start cutting me open. And in the coaching world, someone can just put, coaching on their LinkedIn profile and there they are. They're up and running. But it doesn't mean they have the actual experience of
Yeah, no, I
how are they
agree.
actually going to help you? Like,
Yeah,
and do they have a deep level of curiosity to lead with questions? Because really that's what it comes down to is do they know how to ask the right question
yeah,
to elicit the right type of thinking and right type of response to take them on a path, to take them on a journey? And
yeah,
there's balance between pulling and pushing, being
absolutely.
encouraging, accountability, like all of that incorporated in. And I encourage anyone who's thinking about getting a coach, go speak with multiple coaches to really get a feel for personality dynamics, what's their background,
Agree.
how well are they going to actually help you get to where you want to go? Because there are a lot of coaches out there, and there's probably a lot of coaches that are even better than me. Like I'm humble enough, to say that, and I know they're probably better than some other coaches. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Last, it's not a question. It's what would be one piece of advice or what would be words of wisdom? And I'm thinking about you because you're adventurous. You told me
yeah.
about your mountaineering. Well, you love getting out into the mountains. You've just come back from Italy. What would be one piece of advice you would give somebody who was had at a crossroads in their career. They had the nag going on,
Yeah.
and they were continuing to wake up every day, do the same thing they were doing. Putting your adventurous hat on, what would be one piece of advice you would give them, and where would you suggest they go traveling to? That's
Okay. So my mom was a nurse for 40 years, dealt with people on the cardiac floor right after getting a heart attack. So she had a lot of people that She helped save their life, and she had a lot of people that died right in her arms. And we were hiking, I don't know, a couple years ago, and I said, you know what? Of all the experience you've had, the 40 years of being a nurse and dealing with all these people, what are some of the greatest learnings that you've had? And she goes, Ryan, I dealt with many, many people that were on their deathbed that had so much regret, so much remorse that they kept waiting in the future to live out their dreams. They kept waiting and saying, in the future, when I have enough money or when I'm going to retire, when in this, and I'll start the business and I'll go travel. And here they are on their deathbed without the health to be able to go do what they want to do. And that really landed with me because I was like, okay, that's a pretty good nugget of wisdom. And so to that point, a lot of times I'd sell the same thing to other people. If someone's wrestling with what do they want to do with their career and where they're at, I mean, life is a long time, assuming you get to wake up the next day and live.
Yeah.
Um, don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for next month, next year. Take a look at it now and say, okay, what are small steps I can take today to move me closer to what I want to do? And if it's to go on a trip, a couple of my buddies, childhood friends we've known for 40 something years. Next year, we're going to Vietnam and we're going on a motocross adventure motorbike trip.
I love
And
it.
we just made the deposit last week.
How cool.
Um, and it's something that we talked about. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we're going to take the step, a small step, make the deposit. So it's real. It's like it's going to happen in 2026. And so I encourage other people, if they're thinking about starting a business or they want to get into a different role, a different job, have that dream and that vision to do it,
Yeah.
and then be willing to take small little steps to move, whether it's get a coach, whether it's get a mentor, whether it's
Yeah.
reach out and talk to someone
Yeah.
about what steps they need to take to do it. But don't wait because the cemetery is full of people that waited. They waited and now they never lived out their dreams.
Such a good analogy. Thank you, Ryan. How do we find out more
Yeah.
about you, Ryan? Yeah.
Yeah, so you can go to my website, ryanjoswick.com. You can learn more about me, and also have a free diagnostic leadership tool. If anyone wants to take that, you can take it, and it takes about 10 minutes, and then you get a detailed report afterwards
Oh, I love it.
around areas in your life that you're dialed in, and then maybe some blind spots and some areas for opportunities. And then if we're not connected on LinkedIn, feel free to send me a connection invite, and I'll accept that, and send me a note if you want to chat. That's
Cool.
the
And
best
your
way to get a
book?
hold
What's
of me.
your book called? I should
I
know
don't
that.
have a book yet.
Oh, you don't? Yes.
Nope.
Okay.
But maybe I should, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, why did I put author in there? There goes a little AI, just adding a few extra things into your bio. But I think you should. So I've just planted a seed for you that your book
Yes.
is coming, and I can already see it and I can already read it. Ryan, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful that we finally got to connect. And
Yes.
you have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm glad that technology allows us the opposite ends of the world to be able to connect and have an engaging conversation.
Me too. Thank you, Ryan. Take care.
Okay.